'cause if you don't, you won't get that far. Everybody wants to be a superstar. Tell me, do you really know who you are?
I think it's kind of obvious that how it all began went on a little road trip. We are currently in Johannesburg at the beautiful sanctuary Mandela. And oh man, it's been such an amazing experience because this is the home of the beloved late Nelson Mandela. And joining us today, I have my first in-person interview, Robbie Brozin. Robbie, how are you doing?
Yeah, very good. Thanks, Megan.
Thank you so much for making time to come and chat to us today. Robbie is the co-founder of Nando's. And Robbie, so as I have it, you are from Middelburg, right? And then you attended the King David High School and you achieved your Bachelor of Commerce at the University of Witwatersrand. So you know when people talk about school, for some it was a chore, and for others they think about their school days quite fondly. How would you say was your experience?
Look, I loved my school days. I think my school days were brilliant. Growing up in Middelburg, it was idyllic actually.
Okay.
Then coming to Joburg was a bit of a jolt for me.
Yes.
And then, but my university days were difficult because I went to the army first. So I did 2 years in the army, which was a complete waste of time.
Why do you say that?
It was just a terrible time in South Africa's history.
Of course.
You know, you had choices in my day. You could either emigrate or you could go to jail or you could go to the army. And I guess I went to the army. It was probably a bit like jail. For me, it was like a complete, there's only one way, probably a mind fuck is probably the right way to explain it, because it was such a complete jolt for me. And then coming out of the army, I went to university, but then I was 2 years behind everybody. So, you know, when I was 20, everyone else was 18 at university. So I wanted to just get out of there as quick as possible.
You were now seen as the older
guy. I was a real old toppy in university. But also I wasn't the best student. I wasn't a good student, I must be honest.
Like your marks, or what do you
terrible.
mean?
I was terrible. I mean, as a student, I was, at matric, I did terribly, just scraped through. And then at university, I battled to do accounting. So I failed accountancy. I did my BCom, but tried to do accountancy, failed accountancy, and I think it's probably the best thing that happened to me was failing and then not becoming an accountant, because I think I'm the complete opposite. I give accountants grey hairs at the moment.
Yeah, no, I also wasn't good at accounting since high school. So then of course you graduated and then you stepped into the corporate world, right?
A little bit. I mean, I worked a little bit. I worked for my father for a while. My father was the senior agent in South Africa at the time, and I worked with him, which was also interesting, but quite a difficult period. I think it's quite difficult to work for your father sometimes in a kind of big corporation. And then I worked with Fernando, and he was on the technical side of senior. I was on the marketing side. And then we used to eat at a little Portuguese place down in Rosettenville. And I said to him one day, you know, why don't we take this chicken to the world? Because no one had really taken peri-peri flame grilled chicken to the world. There was a lot of deep fried and a lot of kind of American style chicken, but no one had ever taken, you know, spicy and grilled flame grilled chicken to the world. And so we bought into the place in Rosettenville. And then I thought it was just going to be an investment for me. I thought literally I would go in on a Monday and take a little brown paper bag.
You go.
And there we go. But actually it didn't work out that way, because I had to be putting money in every Monday.
Of course.
And I didn't quite realize how difficult it was. And but I also found that I loved the business. And so we rebranded that
from
business.
Chickenland, right?
From Chickenland, we rebranded it to Nando's, which was really named after Fernando's son. His son is called Nando. And then we opened our second and our third, and then we started growing from there. And it's been a wonderful journey. And I think that the kind of core principle that we've always had at Nando's is really to be a values-based business, but with a very strong purpose. And to me, businesses have to be very purposeful.
Of course.
Because it's not just about the chicken. And we said that 35 years ago. We said Nando's is not just about the chicken. You know, it's about pride, passion, courage, integrity, and family were our kind of values. And then we looked at how do we create something bigger than just, you know, it's how do we save lives? How do we impact and change lives?
Like, how do we take it further than just
how do we take it just doing chicken? That it's just about that. Obviously, you're using the business to grow and to be the commercial side of it. But how do you impact lives, not only in the business but also out the business, and in a way that is very sustainable, very gentle, And that's been a brilliant journey for me.
So how did you guys go from only having 3 restaurants in South Africa to, then becoming this global giant, especially because you guys were up against big players such as KFC, right?
Look, it took us 15 years to become an overnight success. I always say
Exactly,
that.
it's overnight success. Yeah,
That's what I say to young entrepreneurs. We're a bit doff, okay? So maybe young entrepreneurs maybe takes 10 years, okay, today. But for us, it was 15 years, and it was 15 years of really hard slog. I mean, it was proper work, and we also very early on found the right strategic partners. We partnered with a family called the Enthoven family.
Enthoven family,
and
okay.
They, Dick Enthoven was an incredible entrepreneur, incredible man, an incredible kind of visionary as well. I mean, he had the vision to invest with us when we had 3 restaurants, and it was like crazy. I wouldn't have invested with me with 3 restaurants. I always look and say that moment was like a pivotal moment in my life.
Like somebody took a chance on you.
Somebody took a chance on us, and it was fantastic. I've had 2 big influences in my life. My father, who's an accountant, and Dick Enthoven, who's a visionary. And so for me, it's always been, it's always about cost and value. Yeah. My dad always asked me, what is the cost of this? What's the cost of that water? Dick would always say, what's the value of that water? And the 2 big influences in my life. And without those 2, Nando's wouldn't have existed, I can tell you, because, they both were they were such giants in what they did. And so we've always been on the shoulders of giants. And that's why a lot of people put, the kind of congratulate us for what we've done. But really, it's a team effort with so many different influences. And, so it's been a fantastic journey. But it's been a journey about, Dick taught me about value. What is the value of building a business? And the value of building a business is how you do it into the next generation and how you pass on the flame to the next generation. And what flame is it? Is it just about making money? Is it just commercial? Is it just being greedy? Or is it how do you impact and take people along with you? And that's really the nuance of what we've done. And I think we've done that really, really well as a collective.
Of course. I mean, it's been so many years, and I mean, people still love Nando's.
Yeah.
You can't say, oh, the quality went down. You can't say.
We've had some difficult times in the business as we grew.
Do you mind touching on those?
Yeah, I know. We've had some tough times. I mean, certainly in the early days, from a cash flow point of view, we had some tough moments on cash flow, but also just in terms of as the business grew and as we've taken, we've grew the business globally. You lose some talent from South Africa, you relocate them around the world. The South African business has to reimagine and reignite itself. And we've had to do that a few times in our South Africa and in some of the markets around the world. The UK had to do it, Australia's had to do it. So it's been complicated. I stepped away from the day-to-day about 12 or 13 years ago.
Okay, so you're not as hands-on
I'm
anymore.
totally hands-off. In fact, they want me completely, I'm the OG there,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
I mean,
That's why you said you went to golf this morning.
Yeah, I had a rare morning of golf, which was such a pleasure, I promise you. But it really is about the next generation that understand social media, that understand it's a different business. When we were growing the business, social media wasn't a factor. Even just from an advertising point of view, from a the whole thing has changed dramatically, and so you have to regenerate. You have to bring the youth into the business, and the youth is, when I look at South Africa and I look at Mandela, and we're in a very special place here.
Of course.
I came to this house a few times when Madiba was living here, and when you look at the youth that he brought into his infrastructure with Zelda Ragranji, she was 24, 25 as his PA. And he brought in young people. Trevor Manuel, in his first cabinet, were young people.
And for you to have done that, because not a lot of people would have taken a chance on, your youth.
You got to look at the cabinet today, how old the cabinet is today, and you got to look how young the cabinet was, and you got to say, well, you have to keep refreshing. And a business is no different to running a country. And so Nando's we want to refresh. Yes. So you have new ideas and you do get older as you get a bit older. So my kind of role about 12 years ago was really about the changing lives. How do we really start impacting, changing lives at scale? And my first kind of real purposeful journey on that, apart from the work we did internally at Nando's, which is, we've always done a lot of work on changing lives, but the first one where we stretched outside was Goodbye Malaria, where we looked at how do we impact Mozambique and how do we eradicate malaria from Mozambique. And we've been doing it now for about 12 years. And this last year we've impacted about 5 million people in Mozambique, in southern Mozambique. Now,
And that's such a
number.
step away from the restaurant industry,
Completely.
So please touch on Goodbye Malaria. Like, why did you feel like you wanted to get involved with that cause?
Because I went on a trip one day with an explorer called Kingsley Holgate, and he explained to me that malaria is the biggest killer in Africa,
Yes.
and that a child dies, every 30 or 40 seconds from malaria in Africa. And then you realize that why hasn't it been sorted out? Why has it been sorted out around the world but not in Africa? And yet so much money was being poured into Africa to sort it out.
But nothing's happening.
But nothing's happening. And then you actually realize, but we as Africans actually have to have an African solution for an African problem. And so we then thought, well, if Nando's had to fight malaria, what would we do? How would we approach it? And so we looked at it with a kind of mindset, of entrepreneurial mindset, but at the same time, a bit of creativity. Who says changing lives have to be miserable? You want to make it fun. How do we get like an explorer mindset? And how do we make malaria in color? So when we looked at Goodbye Malaria, how do we create the brand for Goodbye Malaria? That's a fun, funky, vibey brand.
That young people can,
can appreciate it. Young people in Mozambique, in little villages, when they see Goodbye Malaria coming, it puts a smile on their face, as opposed to being depressing and you're looking at a kid with a tear and a fly, all that
like
kind
that's
of negative.
now.
It's overdone. And so we said we want to be positive. And so we looked at how do we do that, and that's been incredibly successful. That program has been incredibly successful, but also it's got a very entrepreneurial mindset with people from Africa, by Africa, in Africa, dealing with Africa's problems. Not necessarily, we funded a bit from overseas, but
I love the
but
Buy
action
Africa aspect.
is on the ground. And that was the first bit. I thought, well, let's see how we can do that differently.
Yes.
And that worked out well. And then from there, various other projects that we started doing.
Yes,
And I've got the bite of how can we
really make an impact.
Make an impact at scale. What are the real problems that we
Yeah.
can make an impact at scale with? Not just handing out samis or oranges or, which is important. I mean, a lot of people, it's a good thing for a lot of people, but how do you get involved in real issues and change the system from inside and actually make a massive change? And particularly when governments aren't that helpful in terms of, you have to work with them and we work very closely with particularly the Mozambican government on Goodbye Malaria. They've been incredible.
Okay.
But how do you work with government? And also, governments are the same throughout the world. They're not entrepreneurial. You can't expect them to be entrepreneurs. So how do you do the public-private partnerships? It's very exciting. And for me, that reinvented myself. It gave me a chance to actually say, well, the kind of platform that we've built at Nando's is a beautiful platform for changing lives. And how do we use that platform? And so I've been beyond privileged. But at the same time, the people running the business are doing a far better job than I could ever do in running the business. So you actually have the best of both worlds, It's because I was not built to run a global brand the way that it's being run at the moment with, we're in 1,200 restaurants in 27 countries. It's complicated. And
yes, you can drive down the road and there'll be like 2 Nando's.
yeah, and you can go to London and you can go to Vancouver and you can go to Chicago and there's Nando's, and it's got to be done in a particular style, in a particular way, in a particular process. And as an entrepreneur, that's not really my skill. And so there are other people that can do it far better than what I can and not doing it better than what I can. And Robbie Enthoven is basically, together with a CEO called Rob Paps, are running the business today.
Okay.
And they're doing a bloody good job, And so it's freeing me up the privilege of being able to do purposeful work, which is, for me, it's like beyond, I can't tell you how happy I am because, when you're freed up to be able to do things that you can add a bit more value, then you have a reason for being. You've got a relevance. When you get to a certain age, you just want to be a bit relevant. It's a funny thing. I never thought I'd ever be that, But at like 65 now, you want to be relevant, but you also know that you can't really be, you're not that relevant as it were, because you're not in touch with things. Things are coming at such a speed. So the real relevance that you can do is the people that you have around you and the people that you can help and and inspire you. You know, I get inspired by people all the time. And
You know, for anyone that's watching in our audience today, and of course you don't have to go into personal details, but what if they want to buy a stake in a company? How should they go about that? You know, from the moment that they identify this business opportunity to actually, like you and Fernando, who made it a reality. What's that step?
I think the most important thing for any business person wanting to go is the passion of what they want to do.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Don't be forced into something. I think you need to. It mustn't feel like work. When the day that it starts feeling like work is probably the day you got to give up. You know, and so a lot of people get forced into something. You know, as an entrepreneur, you want to buy a business, but it's got to be a lifestyle for you. It's got to feel natural. Now, a lot of people don't actually know what they're good at, and that's always a bit of a kind of challenge. I'm lucky in that when I found Nando's and Nando's found me, and I just loved working behind the counter. I loved seeing the chicken bones coming back in. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
People
I get
eating.
you. Like the
enjoyment, and I love making people happy through food.
Yeah.
So it was, for me, it was a natural thing. Some people don't like that, you know. Now, for me, food was a natural kind of thing. So I was blessed in that I found it. But I think I always tell young entrepreneurs, like, if you're not passionate about a business, then it doesn't matter. Don't do it. And then another thing is, the Eindhovens, when they invested with us, which was a critical lesson for me, was probably one of the biggest lessons that I pay forward now, is that they only wanted to buy 30% of the Nando's business. Most investors will say, we want 51% or we want to control it. Yeah. They were very clear that they want 30% because they felt that we, the guys that are running the business, we're putting a lot of effort in, and we must get a better reward than they get.
And that's not often, eh?
And that never happens, okay? And so your investors are critical. Who you bring in as investors? Are they greedy? Are they, you know, who are they as people? Yeah. And I mean, I didn't know that at the time. You know, we didn't know the Eindhoven family, but we've been partners for 35 years now, and it's been an incredible relationship. And not only about money. Money is like secondary. It's all about now the value add and the lessons that we've done and how they've leaned in and helped us over difficult times. And that's how it's like a marriage. You know, it's really, you got to find the right person. And sometimes that's lucky.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you come from a place of values and your values are aligned, so I always say to young entrepreneurs, find investors that share your values. And then you must have your values for your business that they understand, that you're building a business that's going to be, because we said very early on, Nando's has got very strong values, but also it's not a quick business. We're going to do, you know, we're going to be in this 20, 30, 40 years, you know, and their kind of time frame.
So you knew that from the start?
We knew that from the start. We went through, this wasn't like start something and then sell it and flip it.
Okay,
you know
this was
so
we're in it now, we're going to write this
we want to build
out.
something meaningful, we want to build something, and that was what they understood. So you got to like align with your partners. It's a very critical thing. So it's not just, you know, today a lot of businesses are bought and sold and bought and sold and bought and sold. That's not what we are. We long term, and that's been a very, you know, it's been a very good thing. So I always say to invest or to entrepreneurs that are starting out, just also understand your time frame, and then find the right investors. You know, how long you want to be in this business for. That if it's only 5 years, there's a certain investor that'll come in for 5 years, but some investors want to come in for 30 years or 40. You know, they want to see it as a long term.
Yes.
You know, that's an important thing.
And Robbie, another organization, well, non-profit actually, that you helped establish was the Rambi Youth Employment Accelerator, which, you know, acted like an incubator for the unemployed youth, you know. And how did you get involved there? I mean, given the climate now where unemployment is where it's at in South Africa.
Youth unemployment's always been a big issue in South Africa, and Harambee was just really so ahead of its time, and again, it was started by one of the Eindhoven kind of family groups where they came along and said they've got this idea that it's all about youth employment. Would we participate? And so we were one of the very early adopters of the Harambee kind of approach to employment, youth employment, and Harambee's been incredibly successful, but as an NGO, but also they've been incredibly successful in feeding youth into the Nando's world. And so we like to employ what we call shiny eyes. Okay. People have got to have shiny eyes. And Harambee helped us recruit shiny eyes. And it's a critical thing, because when you haven't got shiny eyes, you've got nothing. You know, you need to have shiny eyes.
You need to see that you're passionate about something.
You need to see that you're passionate about it.
Okay.
You need to see passion about it. And Harambee's been again, Harambee was developed independently on their own, and we were just enablers for them. And it's been an incredibly successful kind of journey. And that's where the Changing Lives really also meshes itself so nicely together.
Because I mean, a lot of people might look at you and be like, wow, Robbie, you've done amazing things. And I mean, you've done your fair share amount of giving back as well. So why don't you just sit back and, enjoy the fruits of your labor?
Yeah,
Why didn't you go play golf?
Well, look, I played golf today. I played such shit golf. Okay. And for me, life is about the legacy that you leave.
Yes.
Okay. The legacy for me, yes, you can leave a business legacy. That's a beautiful thing. But I think you also need to be able to leave a legacy of how can you impact, a much broader society, and also in terms of where you are, what can you do? Like what, I think South Africa is a really interesting place. I'm a big believer in our constitution. So to me, the Constitution of South Africa is the most incredible document. It's what the struggle was fought for. It's what Madiba fought for.
Of course,
he fought for the Constitution. Most South Africans don't even know that we're a constitutional democracy or haven't even read the preamble to the Constitution. Now, the Constitution talks of we the people. It's not we the government, it's we the people. Okay, the government worked for us. Unfortunately, what's happened is that we feel like we work for the government. It's completely the wrong way. We the people is actually the moment. And so when Cheryl Carolus, she was chair of the Constitutional Trust, invited me to work at Con Hill Trust. I read the Constitution for the first time. I also hadn't read it about 8 years ago. It was all the stuff that was happening in the background. It's like legalese to me. Yes. But then I read the preamble, and it just really spoke to my heart, because it spoke about human dignity, and that's the approach Nando's has always had to how we build our business, with human dignity and people at the center. Nando's is about people. It's the people that make the chicken. And our constitution is all about the people. It's we the people. So it was such an easy it was such an easy thing for us to say, well, our values, the Nando's values, our constitutional values are completely aligned. And then you take those values and you say, well, how do we prove that the Constitution is in action? What do we do? Because if you look at a lot of the GNU, or our Government of National Unity at the moment, is all people that believe in our Constitution. The people that are outside don't believe in the Constitution. And so how do we, the people, actually now put the Constitution in action? And through my life, I've tried to mind my own business, but somehow it finds me, trouble finds me now and again. And fixing Joburg was really an incredible opportunity that you get once in a lifetime. And so from my perspective, somebody approached me and said, would I become a member of the Wits Business School, director of the Wits Business School? I joined there, and the first meeting I attended was really Anglo-American wanted Wits Business School to move into the old Anglo building. They'd moved out of the city into Rosebank, and they wanted Wits to move in there. And we said to Anglo, you can't do that. Why should we move into Anglo when you've moved out? Yes. Anglo-American, you've built the city of Joburg. You've got to fix the city. Yes. And we said, we put a challenge to them. Anglo, you have to fix the city of Joburg. So they said, well, how are we going to do that? Yeah. You can't just throw money at the problem. We haven't got enough money to throw to
even throw it at the problem.
It's just how do you start doing it? So we started thinking, okay, well, again, how did Nando's, we stayed in Lawrenceville, we grew Victoria Yards. How do we take that approach with Goodbye Malaria? How do we take all of that, put it into a washing machine? What do we come up with? And we came up with a view that the way to fix Joburg is through the creatives. The crazies are going to wake the nation. The crazies are going to wake Joburg. Okay. So for me, the question was, you got to find the chief crazy. Okay. Yeah. How do you find the chief crazy? Yeah. Because if the crazies are going to wake the nation, okay, you got to find the right person that's going to be part of the kind of creative challenge of how do we get this thing going. And so I'm very connected in the advertising industry, and I got hold of a friend of mine, Brett Morris. He was the chairman of FCB Ad Agency. And I said to him, Brett, I'm looking for the best creative in South Africa. He said to me, well, the best creative in South Africa, unfortunately, is not in South Africa. He's living in New York at the moment. And so I said, well, who's he? He said, his name is Malusi Mhlungu, and you got to speak to him. And as it happens, he's coming out next Sunday. So I said, you know what, let's meet at Constitution Hill. I want him to see the Constitution. I want to read the preamble with him. I want him to see that from here we're going to fix the world from here. Because if we fix Joburg, We fix South Africa, we fix the world. The world needs fixing as well. The world is
it's not just us, eh?
It's not just us. No, let me tell you, we're not in bad shape. The world's in much worse shape. And I met Malou Sunday morning, 9 o'clock. He thought, what? This chicken man wanting to come with this kind of shit. And I met him there, and then I just loved him. The minute I met him, I saw shiny eyes. I just saw, I just loved him. Okay. And then I went about a month later, I think I met him in New York. And we went 10 o'clock one Saturday. I never work on a Sabbath. And 10 o'clock on that day, I said, you know what, I can work this Sabbath, okay? And I'm going to, because it wasn't work, and I'm going to go sit with Malou, we're going to have lunch or brunch. We started at 10 o'clock. We finished at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And we ended up saying we're going to change the world. And Malou was living the Brooklyn lifestyle. Hat was the wrong way around, chilling, got out of a yellow cab. He came to meet me. I said to him, Malou, come home. Joburg needs you. Malou was Soweto born. Joburg needs you. Okay, this place is fucked. Okay, we have to fix this place. Okay, we have to fix this place. And we started fixing it. And Malou came up with an ode to the city, which is a love letter to the city, which starts with Jozi My Jozi. And we've had such fun, okay? And it's so difficult, but so easy. Because when you have the right people with you and you approach it in the right way, and you approach it with a kind of attitude that this can be fixed, okay? It has to be fixed. There is a solution.
There's no other choice.
There is no other choice. But also when you start actually finding that there's some young people out there, with ChatGPT and AI, stuff that wasn't even developed 2 years ago, that you can now deal with for the homeless, for example. There's a group called Zlato that are going to be assisting with the homeless. They're based out of Cape Town and out of Mitchell's Plain, and they're going to be coming to Joburg to come and help the homeless in Joburg. You think to yourself, because you've got to connect the most inobvious people together. It's like,
things that you might not have thought at first glance. It doesn't make sense.
At first glance, it makes no sense. Okay, it makes no sense. Okay, and what you find is that if you do it through the lens of the Constitution, okay, in other words, human dignity at the center of everything that you do, you find the solution is not that complicated because you connect with the heart, and it's not like if you look at and Lou will explain some of the his inspiration for New York versus Joburg. But you don't want to take the shambok to sort out the homeless or to sort out. That's not through human dignity. That's not the way Madiba would have done it. Okay, you do it through individuals, through people. You can't look at homeless and say there's 100 homeless. It's 100 individuals that are homeless.
They are, like you're saying, they're individuals.
They're individuals.
Stories.
And so it's such a beautiful. When you look at it through that lens, and then you take ChatGPT, and then you say, well, 5 years ago you could never have solved the problem, but today actually you can, okay, in a different way. And then you say, but when we solve this problem, it's also a solution for Pittsburgh or for San Francisco or for Berlin. So suddenly you start saying, well, how did you take chicken to the world? Okay, we did it that way. How are we going to take a homeless solution to the world? Okay, we're going to do it that way. You start using those principles to say, well, we can do this in a way that has an impact, because we've certainly impacted, Nando's has impacted the way people think about flame-grilled peri-peri chicken
100%.
in the UK. We're going to get people to think how to deal with homeless in a different way, how to deal with youth employment or unemployment in a different way. And it's the way that you do it. It's an approach that you do it with good branding, good kind of, but at the same time, human dignity.
Yes, humanizing these people.
It's humanizing the people, humanizing the problem, but it's about the people that make the chicken, but it's also about the people that are going to fix the homeless and are going to fix the taxis in Joburg. How do you fix the taxis in Joburg? Well,
if you can fix the taxis.
If you can fix the taxis, I don't know. But it's going to be fixed through a human solution, and the world needs that today. And I think that's what Madiba
would have wanted.
That's what he would have wanted. When you scratch everything down, that is the essence of who we are as South Africans.
Yes.
And it gets back to the Constitution. We united in diversity. We are united in diversity. That is who we are as South Africans. That's the magic of South Africa, is we're united in diversity. We have to all celebrate Heritage Day, where we come from. It's all from different heritage, and we respect each other.
Yes,
respect
each other. That is so important.
We respect each other at a level that is so different to any other country that I travel around the world, meet the different people. South Africans have got a very different kind of, there's an essence that we have as South Africans.
That you can't find anywhere.
There's a deep respect that you can look at an auntie and you respect that auntie, she respects you. You can say one or two words.
Yes.
It's like a knowing wink.
Yeah.
You know, you say something
Yeah.
and you see, and then there's that level of respect that I promise you, I haven't seen it in a lot of countries. And we as South Africans have it. We forget sometimes because
we're so used to it. It's
and also
nothing for
we're so
us.
used to it, but we've been abused as well. Politically, we've been abused. I think, you know, it's just that because we've been bullied in so many different ways, and with corruption and with inefficiency, and you know that the people that have really been affected the most are the people that deserve it the most. And so that's why when you start looking at fixing a place like Joburg, the privilege of being able to use some of my skills together with a bunch of crazy people, because it has to be crazy. You can't be normal.
Because you need to think out there, if you want to solve this
and
whole problem.
you can't be scared. And these are people that are not scared. We've taken the invisibles in Joburg and we're making them visible. And that's the key, because Joburg has been held together by the most incredible people. One thing Joburg's got is fantastic people, and they are resilient and tough, and they are like amazing. And so we're going to fix it with the people. You know, we're not going to be fix it with Harvard Business School and all kinds of theories and big plans. There's fuck all plan. We have no idea what we're doing. I can tell you right now. But we do know that we're doing it in a way that is not just throwing cash at the problem. We're dealing with it in a very dignified way. We're dealing with it in a very kind of a light touch and bringing out the best of the human being. And it's for me, someone like me, to see it just growing, it certainly was much better than a 30-foot putt. If you sink a putt, you think, well, that was lacquer. But what I'm seeing now is much better than a putt. Because a putt was a fluke. This feels like this feels to me like I was born to be where I am now, but I can only be where I am now because of
everything
my past.
else, exactly.
You know what I mean? Of what I'm, you know, I've been given a lot of credit for the work that we've been done in the past. Some deserve it, some undeserve it, but it feels like it's positioned me to do what I can do now, which is for me a very fulfilling part of my career and my life, and it's giving me a layer of purpose that gets me out of bed in the morning for a much higher purpose, and it's bringing light to a dark world, which I think is an important kind of message to everybody, but in a way that is not obvious, which is fun.
And Robbie, it's been really heartwarming. Like I said, you've achieved so much, and hearing you still speak so passionately about this. Thank you so much for taking your time to come to us. And now we're going to go to Malusi, which you know you've been speaking about him, so I'm excited to also chat with him.
You're going to see shiny eyes when Malusi comes.
I saw it when he stepped in. I already saw it.
And Megan, you got to promise me one thing. You got to come back to Joburg and spend more time in Joburg.
Yes, 100%.
It's going to fire 100%. Your soul. Cape Town's lacquer, but you got to come to Joburg.
Yes, please.
We deserve to have you here.
I want to come, definitely.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Tell me, do you really know who you are?
Malusi, we have heard so much about you now. You know, amongst those things, we've heard that you have shiny eyes, and that is true.
Wait, which side do I look for the shiny eyes? This camera? Is the camera catch?
But thank you so much, for making time out of your day to come and chat to us.
Such an honor to be here.
Thank you. So you are from Soweto originally?
Yeah, born in Soweto and raised in Nkandla, in KZN.
Okay, by your grandparents?
By my grandparents, yes. So for context, you can imagine Soweto, extreme different worlds, right? Soweto is township, it's very fast, pacey, and then Nkandla is like this rural area where I am, actually my name is Melusi, right? To be a shepherd, right? Running after cows. So just that contrast
you were
in my
living up
life.
to your name,
So yeah, that is, but also it's the fiber that I think created the creative in me, just being raised and born in like these two different worlds, and I think I've held that to my heart, and the contrast that.
And you were lucky enough to be exposed to two different cultures, So how do you think, influence from being in Joburg as well as KZN kind of helped your creative sensibility that you have today?
I think for me there's a sense of hustle that you get in Soweto. Like everybody's trying to do something. Everybody's fast, and then back home in Nkandla, it's like everybody's slow, right? It's like, like looking after people with neighborly, it's community based. And for me, finding that balance of how do we move fast and slow at the same time, and then allow yourself to actually be in those two worlds, because as a creative, some days are crazier than others.
Of course.
And so learning when to switch off and learning when to switch on.
And I think that's so important, as a creative, because just because when you are in a more quiet time of your life, one may think, oh, maybe I must give up, maybe this is not working out. But like you're saying, just appreciating the slowness as well, because that's kind of time for preparation for, when you get into that hustle and grind mode again.
Definitely. And also that's the time where crazy ideas hit you.
Of course.
And I've learned in the quiet is when you get to listen to that creative voice inside of you, instead of running all the time.
So I've been told that the radio played a very meaningful part in your journey as well. Just listening to the stories, gathering around the radio and really absorbing, the rhythms and voices of your community. How do you think that also just aided to your creativeness?
I'm a big fan of storytelling. So even before I knew there was this thing called advertising, I've always loved South African stories. And so from growing up with my grandparents, we used to gather around the radio, and that's how we heard stories. And for me, radio is like a theater of the mind, right? You could...
Because you must
just imagine it, right? And I fell in love with our stories, and all I wanted to do in some shape, way or another, is to one day be able to tell our stories as South Africans, as a Zulu person, as a boy from Soweto, as a boy from Nkandla. How do we collect all those stories and be able to tell them in interesting and unexpected ways?
That's also why, obviously, for many people after graduation, it's a bit of a challenge to find their footing. But you found an opportunity at the FCB Global. How did that opportunity come about?
Like I said, I never really knew of this advertising world. All I knew is between watching TV, there was like some, short form of entertainment that came up. And South Africa has always had like iconic...
like the ads back in the day, those ones.
And I'm like, whoever gets paid to do that thing, I want to do it. And also Nando was part of making those ads themselves. I was like, I need to find out what that thing is, and I need to find a way to do it. And ended up at a school called Vega, which is an advertising school, also by chance. I did not know how do you even get into an advertising school, and I came across the school, and my aunt said, you should go and check it out. Right, and I get there, and all the creatives have got like this big black bags, portfolio, and I'm
intimidating.
Like,
they know what's
I'm like, well, what is this thing? I'm in the wrong place. I'm going back home. Sorry, I bothered you guys.
I'll excuse myself.
But luckily, there was a gentleman by the name of Gordon who was there at reception, and he runs actually the Vega, the school, and he's like, just take this test since you already made your way here, because it was like far from taking 2 taxis to go to Vega. And I took the test, and I didn't think much of it. I get into the taxi on my way back, actually crossing the Mandela Bridge. I get a phone call saying school starts on Monday. And so it was just by chance, somebody willing to take a chance on me and saying, just do this thing and let's see. And since then, there's been multiple people who have come through in my life and willing to take a chance of just pure craziness on the audacity to think I could, even without a portfolio.
I mean, we also touched on that, of course, my conversation with Robbie, and even me sitting here today, it's somebody willing to take a chance on you. You might not have been, like you're saying, you packaged perfectly and you have your black briefcase, but they saw something in you. And I think it's also our responsibility, to pave that forward, ultimately, right?
For me, that has been my dream. Even before I even got into advertising, I knew one day I wanted to start an advertising agency. So I was very intentional about everything I do. I try and put it out into the universe. And then I just wake up and say, maybe it's today, right? Maybe it's today. And so I've got this huge passion and dream to, be part of building the next generation of creative talent out of South Africa to the world. And, I know Robbie touched on something earlier on about changing the world from here. And there's a whole bunch of creatives and South African creatives who are so amazing, and just given that chance, we can show the world what we're made of.
No, South Africans, we are talented, like
Incredibly talented. It's incredibly talented. And that thing that you touched on earlier, that kind of juxtaposition of coming from the city, but also from a rural area, and just having that kind of connection in the world of quiet and noisy, and then paying that forward, to me, is a critical thing. What Malu's done, what he's done for young creatives, just in the short time that he's been back last 2 years, it's been unbelievable. I can just see them, buzzing around. I mean, it's amazing, eh? Yeah. And it's such a talent, and it is. You put yourself out there, you take a risk, and other people take a risk on you. Then you have a responsibility to deliver. It's up to you then.
Yes.
You're only delivering because you're responsible, and you're doing it in a way. That's how it works. Yeah,
you can't someone's taking a chance on you, but you also not.
And then you just relax.
You should relax and say, well, now leave it up to the gods. So it's that responsibility of seizing the moment, which is what Malu's done so well at all those different times of his life, and it's been deliberate, but it's also been, you can be deliberate, but you can fail.
Yes.
And I mean, it's that risk of not fearing failure, but at the same time.
Yeah. And there's a saying, that success is basically just failure after failure without losing enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm going to ask both of you, what keeps you enthusiastic about Jozi My Jozi?
For me, it's the people more than anything. I think when I first got to meet Robbie, and he told you, I was like, who's this chicken guy? I was like, who's this chicken guy? Who's this at Connie on a Sunday morning. I'm like, okay, let me go.
What am I doing here?
The utopia, let's man.
What am I doing here?
I'm like, I could be in so many places, chilling, partying. And I got to meet Robbie, and that was supposed to be a 1 hour conversation, I think, turned into the whole day, right? And sometimes you just meet people along the way that give you that sense of how is he so passionate about this country, about South Africa, about the city, and also he could live anywhere in the world, right? And I'm on the other side. I'm like, no, man, I'll be crazy if I come back home.
Imagine you in New York, what do you mean?
No ways, right? But you take that chance because of the people around you. Sometimes, and so for me, how do I keep the enthusiasm going? I'm surrounded by people who are as charged and as passionate as I am.
Yes. Yes. So even on the days where you might be doubting yourself, where you feel, not as motivated, because, things happen,
Definitely.
Especially if you are trying something new. I can imagine all the hurdles.
And you see, Joburg's got hustle, hey? So when you go out there on the streets of Joburg and you meet people,
it's buzzing.
It's buzzing. And you see the people and you talk to somebody and you just get to understand, who are you and what are you doing? Okay, it just inspires you. You come back and you think,
Yeah, and you also need to now.
You think to yourself, what? Yes. How hard has it been for you to do what you're doing, and you're doing what you do,
and you're still doing it,
and you're still doing it, and with a smile, and that just inspires. Inspired both of us to. Was Malu came up with the whole with his ode to the city of Joburg. I mean, that was the genius.
That was the start, but it was also the hardest part, I think, because when. Yes. Imagine, where do you start? Come up with a brand to help reignite hope, bring back faith in our city, and also create the city that we can be proud of, right?
Because it sounds nice, when you say it, it sounds like,
we can do this.
But what exactly?
As soon as you start thinking, you're like, oh my goodness.
And everybody's saying, are you mad?
We can't get this right.
The one moment that Malu came back from New York, okay, and I was doing a talk for one of the banks, and I asked Malu to come with me to the talk, okay, and it was for the creatives of the bank, and I got up there and I spoke to the creatives, and then Malu spoke. I introduced Malu at the end.
At the end, he's like,
and
stay in the corner.
Everybody went straight to Malu. Everyone was just all around. Hey, Malu, you're back. That's when I knew that it was the right decision for him
to come
back. And it was the right decision for the youth of South Africa when they saw that Malu had come home. I'd never seen the room buzz like that. I thought it was my talk.
You were like, wow.
I just said, I just remember 2 fucks.
It dropped 2 F-bombs and you're like...
But the energy of the youth surrounding Malou and saying, you're home. You know, why did you come home? How was at the top of his game to come back to South Africa at that particular point in time? You know what I mean? It's like, because time is a big context of everything. You know what I mean? It's a massive context. To come back at that time when South Africa was burning, Joburg was so negative. Okay, to have the guts to come back, it was, you know, now people are joining us and there's a different kind of energy in the city, but we've turned it, we're turning it. So we haven't turned it by any means. We're only 5%.
Only 5%.
Yeah.
But that 5% is, and that's when we realize, like, it's doing the small things.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Like you spoke about it earlier on, like scared of failure, because I am now in the States. I have done 2 Super Bowl commercials. I've always dreamt of working in New York, and there it was.
And you live it.
I'm living
you know?
it. And suddenly, it's like, do you let this all go and go back home, right? And there's 2 decisions, hardest decisions that I ever had to make. One was leaving South Africa, and one was coming back. And I'm so happy I got to do both, and I got to experience both. Because sometimes we live lives thinking what could have been and what could have. And yeah, it takes a crazy to come back and say, I want to be part of something like this. And also there was no brand at that time, right? It was just a feeling, right? It was a sense of rejuvenated excitedness. I've always wanted to use my creativity for good, beyond just making commercials and making ads. And Robbie said to me, and I won't forget those words, like, when in your lifetime would something like this, you know, ever happen? And for me, once again, I took that with both hands and ran with it, even in the uncertainty. And sometimes being a creative, we've got like this, I don't know what to call it, this stubborn thing of not knowing, but still doing it, right?
Even when others can't see the vision.
Others can't see the vision, but there's something exciting about uncertainty. And for me, I've always used uncertainty as a way to spark my creativity. There's so much power in the unknown, not knowing, because that's when you become curious. And so the more and more I thought about our conversation, the more and more curious about, like, actually, what if I need to ask myself is, what if this does work out?
Instead of going negative, because, you know, we are inclined to kind of jump to the negative. But like you're saying, what if it actually
does? You know,
like,
and
what could it mean for South Africa?
What could it mean for South Africa? What could it mean, you know, for our team? You know, like Robbie said, we've got, what could it mean for the people of Joburg? And the one thing that we centered this whole thing around was we, the people. And we've always spoken about Jozi being the city of gold. And when I spoke with Robbie and the team, I was like, maybe the people are the gold. And if we actually start with the people, there's no ways you fail. Because we have the heart. There's no shortage of people who want to see Joburg work. And so we just need to channel that into something Robbie calls a great black, or a big idea that they can actually believe in. And actually something that is also authentic. It's real. We're not selling anything to anybody.
We're not selling dreams.
This is just a movement of like-hearted people more than anything.
And
how powerful is that? What if it does work out? Okay. You know, and so that's really the thing, because Malou living in New York, living in Brooklyn, you know, making rich brands richer, as opposed to coming back to his city of his birth and making it work out and impacting thousands of young people. Okay. What's the, you know?
And I mean, we spoke about it earlier as well, you know, if all our creatives and talented people leave South Africa, how are we ever gonna, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So, but it couldn't have been easy.
You know, it wasn't.
For you to come back, like, let's not
come on, the currency.
Settles economy.
but there's two things that I actually do love, right? It's ideas and this country. And so now I get to do both of those. You know, and for me, I get to wake up and do that. I couldn't change it for any currency in the world.
And it takes a lot of guts. It takes a lot of guts to leave and to come back, you know. And so for anyone who actually wants to leave, though, you know, who wants to, because I mean, as aspiring actors, aspiring recording artists, for instance, you know, the dream is, of course, to see the world and to share your craft with, you know, not just South Africa, but with the world itself. And I know that when you moved, this is so funny. It's a bit sad, but it's a bit funny. You had an envelope. containing $9,000, eh? And obviously, it was set aside to help you get started,
And I kept it
right?
aside, yeah.
And I mean, you still persevered despite something like that happening, which, I mean, that could have put anyone else off.
Yeah.
But you didn't allow that to get you down, you know. Talk a bit about that, please. Like, what was that?
Oh no, it wasn't the most easiest of starts. You know, you'd expect like, oh, I'm going to America, I'm gonna start fresh.
Yeah.
Actually, I almost did not go. You know, just for context, is I lost my savings at the
Yes.
airport.
At the airport?
At the airport, yeah, and before I even took off. So I was like, if this is how it starts.
Is this a sign?
Yeah, it's like, no, this is a sign.
No, it's a sign.
It's like Joburg saying, don't go, you know. But regardless of, you know, because I think sometimes we make life decisions based on moments,
Ooh.
right? And I didn't let that one moment determine what was out there
That's
for my
so,
life,
so true.
right? And you touched on like, what do you tell creatives or other people that actually want to leave? And it's actually okay. I said to the person that was interviewing me, Anselmo Ramos, who now runs the biggest, you know, creative agency in the world, and I said to him, Anselmo, I just want to be a sponge. So I would encourage young creatives, if they have that opportunity, go out there, be a sponge,
Absorb.
come back home, and then do this to whatever field or industry that you're in, because that's the way we get better
Yes.
in our craft.
Yes.
That's the way we actually take South Africa to the world and compete at the highest level, because we've been out there and we've seen it, but there's no place like home.
And we have the natural creativity. You know,
Look
we
at
just
what's
need to
happening
go
with
and
Amapiano.
go get the knowledge, and of
Yeah.
course,
Yeah.
right?
We're exporting
Yes,
creativity now.
yes. And you can see people are noticing because they're interested in South Africa.
And they're going to come to South Africa to draw on creatives.
Of course.
You know, the world will come here as well. You know, we need to bring, again, it comes back to the Constitution, take our rightful place in the world. You know, we've lost our rightful place because, and if you draw talent back into South Africa and then we show who we really are, the world is going to come, the world is coming back to
100%.
draw on us here.
draw on us.
There's no question, because we got the best in the world. You know, and that's what we're going to do through Joburg. You know, Cape Town is magnificent, and Cape Town, I say, is like, Cape Town is like the
Thank you.
Cape Town's like the second wife. You know what I mean?
Oh no.
You have to come back
It's fine,
home.
I'll leave your biases. It's okay.
This is your first wife that you made your heart really go pumping.
right.
But Cape Town is so beautiful. But Joburg is where the creative hub is going to be, and what we're creating. And I think what Malou's brought is that sense of optimism and resilience. And you know, there's something, because he says it very quickly, but he did 2 Super Bowl commercials.
No, I
in America.
definitely want to touch on that. We're not
You
going to
know, how
minimize
quick was
that.
that? And when you look at that world class coming back to help redefine, reimagine
Yes.
the city of
Yes.
Joburg, okay, and then you start seeing, well, how do those points connect up? Okay, I'm looking so forward to what's next, you know, in terms of what we're doing. We're launching a campaign middle of September. It's going to be unbelievable.
One of my favorite pieces of work that I've done.
Is it?
It's like
It's
No, share a bit
my
more,
God, eh?
please.
it's 8 films called Babize Bonke, which means call one, call all.
Okay.
And basically is to call on people, not just people of Joburg, but people around the world, to really come see the actions of the invisible. And we've always spoken about, like, this is not even a call to action, but a call to come to see the actions of the invisible. There's people who are doing amazing things on the ground in the city, but their stories are not being told.
They don't have the platform.
They don't have the platform, but their stories are not being told. And I think we are not, and this is not just a Joburg thing, we're not great at, I want to say, telling our own stories, packaging our own stories. And some countries, America does that very well.
Very
America
well.
does
Very
that
well.
And,
very,
they've,
very well.
they've also at that point now where they're coming to tell our stories.
Yeah.
You know?
And if we allow them to do that, you know, then shame on us. And
shame on us.
and you got, what Malou's done is incredible storytelling, but we're now doing story doing as well. And those 8 that we're doing, imagine having Malou telling those stories for those 8, okay, which is what he's done. So the privilege for those 8 to have you tell their story is, you know, because it's, and the way that he's done it, with the craft that he's done it, yeah, it's going to be beautiful.
Oh
And
man,
it's
I can't wait
you know,
to see it.
Oh yeah, Babize Bonke. I mean, you must see. I'm so excited about it because it really is honoring the people that have been holding Joburg together, basically. You know?
And those are the same people when I came home to visit, I drew inspiration from. You know, and I think sometimes as creatives, we need to acknowledge where your inspiration comes from.
Yes,
and
yes,
when I went with Robbie through the inner city, and I was like, there's no ways this story is happening and nobody knows about it. And so when I got back to the States, I started writing that ode, right? And the ode then turned into a love letter to the city, but through the eyes of those individuals who are doing amazing things on the ground. My role is just to be able to tell those stories.
Yes. Just bringing it to life and
bringing
sharing
it to life and sharing it and putting it on the
beautiful way.
spotlight.
Yeah.
Man, I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
But let's go back to the Super Bowl, hey? Because I feel like we can't skip over that. You said it earlier, right? You know, you grew up in the township, and what went through your mind? I mean, the Super Bowl, and you had 2 commercials, right? That played back to back. And I mean, what was that moment like?
The first one, I was like, oh, the Americans are going to think I'm a big fake. If I don't do this again, I'm a fluke.
Like, oh, okay, cool,
And then I'm like, no, man, I have to. And then I did it again. I'm like, no way.
Nobody can
like,
tell you anything.
I'm like, no way. I'm like, whatever is happening, let it happen. And for me, those 2 moments did something else for my career. And it was way beyond writing a TV commercial. It changed the trajectory of my career. And I'll forever be, grateful to the ideas God's up there to say, here's one, here's another.
Of course,
so.
But your first one came very early on.
It was the first script.
The first script that you wrote.
That I wrote, yeah. So as I landed, after this whole dilemma of losing my envelope, I still have creative choices. Luckily those were not in the envelope.
You were not too traumatized. Luckily, eh?
So it was one of the first things, because when I landed, they were actually getting briefed. And it was for Budweiser. And I went home. And the country was new to me, right? I've never been to Miami. I'm living in a completely different world. But everything that I've seen from TV and whatnot, I'm like, typical Americans, right? And that was the spot.
Okay.
The spot was literally me from outside looking in, talking about typical Americans. But what it was really about was sometimes from outside looking in, people can think you're typical. But when you actually get to see some amazing things that some, American people, some American moments, American sports stars are doing, and the craft that it takes, to make a beer that people might consider a typical beer like Budweiser, and to say the next time somebody calls you typical, show them what typical can do. And so sometimes you have to own, owning the negative and turning that into a positive was the inspiration from that. Own your label. Whatever label the world gives it, you own it and flip it into a positive.
That was a word, eh? and I mean, you're finding yourself in New York now amongst all these talented creatives. And did you ever feel, like I always say, imposter syndrome? Because I've definitely experienced that. I found myself on sets like Blood and Water, and I was like, how am I here? I'm just, like we said earlier, from a small town called Ceres. Did you ever feel unsure about yourself? And if so, how did you continue to push through, and confidently so?
I still do to this day, and which is crazy, because I always say, imagine there's this creative, and it's come back home and help reimagine the inner city. I don't know how city works. I don't know city planning. So sometimes I sit in these meetings and I'm like, what is everybody talking about that I don't understand, right? And I don't know. And it's been 2 years later and I still don't know much, right? But I've started to embrace it because the moment I feel that way, it actually inspires me to actually find out more, learn more, so I can feel confident in every room that I walk in. And so I try not to shy away from it, but I've allowed myself to know and recognize when I'm feeling that way. I'm sure there's some people that still have done amazing things that still feel like maybe they don't belong in certain rooms. And the thing is, it's not even a creative thing. I think maybe even South Africa is imposter syndrome, because we're amazing, but sometimes we don't believe it.
It's true. Yeah.
We don't believe, believe it.
Yeah.
We are great. you know.
We don't have
And
to stand back.
we don't have to
We've
stand
been
back.
pushed down to drop down to think that we've been cut down to size.
Yeah.
We need to show who
Yeah.
we really
Who we
are
really
now.
are.
100%.
And that's what Jozi My Jozi is doing in a way, you know. And Cape Town's got the natural beauty, so you don't have to do it in Cape Town. You can just Joburg, you have to work hard at showing the beauty. You know what I mean. And that's through the creatives is showing the beauty of, and that's the privilege of what we're doing. You know, that to me it's a hard job.
So touch a bit more on Jozi My Jozi. Like, what is it about, and how can somebody who's watching today, how can they get involved?
If I had to speak on Jozi My Jozi, we'll probably have another 5 hours, right, to speak on Jozi My Jozi. But Jozi My Jozi is a love letter to a city that I was born and raised in. It's an ode to my city. It's our constitution in action. It's a catalyst for change. We are not here to solve every problem, to do everything, but what we hope is what we do inspires, you know, other people to also do, right? It's a movement, and for it to be a movement, we have to move first. Please, before I touch on even more about Jozi My Jozi, please can you talk about the bridge? How you had that interview, and everybody else is like, how do you fix South Africa?
Yeah, I mean, we had to fix the Nelson Mandela Bridge. That was the first stop of what we had to do. Because if we
Okay.
can't fix the Nelson Mandela Bridge,
How can you say you want to fix?
how can you fix anything? Okay. And so I got interviewed by Financial Mail to say they want 10 CEOs to give their view. I said, I'm no longer the CEO, but they wanted my voice to come and say, what 500 words. How do you fix South Africa?
Okay.
And some of the other CEOs said, you need a GDP of 4%, 8%. You need to do this. I said, we need to fix the Nelson Mandela Bridge. So the guy said, you need 500 words. I said, well, I haven't got more words than that. Because if we can't fix the Nelson Mandela Bridge, okay, we can't fix South Africa.
Yes.
Okay, and that was our first task.
I love
How
that.
do you fix the Nelson Mandela Bridge? Because that was the lens. If we can't fix it, okay, then we must give up. And that took us a long time, and we fixed it. Okay.
Long time? How
It
long?
took about 18 months.
About 18 months. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
And I mean, we had to, it was so interesting because that was really our starting point. But while we did that, we did a whole range of other things at the same time. But that was our kind of focal point. And that was just all we did really to fix it, because it's not like structurally broken, other than the engineering wise not broken, but the panels were broken on the side. There were no lights on the bridge. So at night, in winter particularly, students that were walking
safe.
across,
Yeah, it's not safe.
we took the human dignity was taken out of that bridge, and so we just brought human dignity back, put the lights up. But it sounds easy, just put the lights up. We had to change the regulation of the city to, you have no idea what went on. I mean, it was such a journey, but that was the starting point.
And in a nutshell, that's Jozi My Jozi, right? Is we do and we talk.
And we
about
haven't
it.
even launched it yet.
And we haven't even launched it.
The bridge
we
hasn't
haven't
been
even-
launched properly
When
yet.
are you
Talking
guys
about it.
launching? Are you allowed
I
to
don't
say?
know. We you know, it's one of the Absa Bank have got the right to launch it, and they're going to be launching shortly. We don't know when, but we haven't really done a proper launch. They're waiting for the exact right moment for them, and but yeah, it's been it was such an interesting journey, just that. But at the same time, you couldn't just do that. You had to be doing 3-4 other things. And I mean, Malu and I met with the Taxi Association.
The best meeting ever.
that was they came
Guys
with,
have
they came
guts,
with
eh?
they came with 7 AK-47s to the meeting, and Malu and I
We had to present
with the Anglo
with
people.
our little laptops.
I was like, Malu, don't fuck this one up here. There are actually AKs outside there. I mean,
Wait, what was your defense? Did you have anything?
but what did they say? What was the conclusion that they gave you with the
meeting.
language? Listen
So
to this.
I read the ode and the letter to Jozi My Jozi, and after reading it, there was like silence in the room, and I was like, nope, did not land.
working.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nope, bad crowd tonight, you know. And one of like big bosses, and he said to me, Melusi, we've been using. To try and fix, the pre-taxi rank, we've been using the language of Shambox, right? And which, it's forceful, it's, it's sometimes could be violent, it's like, and he's like, but I love this language better. And that was
very
for me
powerful.
one of the best feedbacks I've even
Of course.
whatever client that I've read a script to.
It was one of the
to
most powerful
connect
meetings.
with them, and that's when we knew it's like everybody in the inner city, including the taxi association, including the taxi drivers, including Umama that sells, you know, on the side of the road. Everybody has the same problems, and everybody wants to see our city succeed, and everybody is willing to work together, from private, corporate, to individuals on the side of the road. And that's what Jozi My Jozi is, a super connector, to be able to connect all those individuals and be able to create a city we can all be proud of.
It's one of those moments that we felt this is going to work.
definitely.
When the taxi boss said to Malou, we like your
I like
language
this
better.
language better.
Your language of human dignity is better than the language of the Shambok. And you actually look at that and you think,
Wow.
Powerful.
that was powerful. And it's those kind of moments that you leave where you're so unexpected. You know, it's so unexpected, but expected.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? You're
definitely.
hoping for, what outcome do you hope for?
Hope from this meeting.
And then you end with that. And then from there we started, you know, we collaborating with them. And it's just been, it's been the most astounding journey at so many different levels, you know.
No,
beautiful
this sounds
journey.
We've
so
got so many
powerful.
stories. I mean, we can tell so many stories because of the kind of meetings that we've had with various people. And a lot of it started from a negative. And now we've turned it, you know,
Into
slightly
something.
positive, and it's still a challenge. I mean, it's
Still a challenge.
Still a challenge. We're not there yet.
But we're still crazy, brother. We still
And
go
then,
ahead
no,
and do
this
it anyway.
sounds like such a good idea, you know.
But Busy Bonke is also very interesting, because what you're doing is you can't fix the city. The city's got to be fixed from the inside out. You know, we're tired of Mandela Day going out and fixing the city, and then the next day it's dirty again.
Yeah.
The city itself's got to fix itself. So they've got to, and Busy Bonke is saying to everyone, this is your city, and this is your patch, and you look after your patch. And I think that's what's going to be very interesting, is to see the 8 people that and we've got another 8 that we're going to collaborate with later, but we're starting with 8 at the moment. That'll be incredible. They're going to bring their communities to help and fix it.
Robbie, Malusi, I can't wait for the launch. You know, I can't wait to see even more and how this is going to grow. And yeah, thank you so much, you know, to both of you for making time and coming to chat with us. I appreciate it. And I learned so much. I know I don't just speak for myself, but for the audience as well.
And this is how it all began.
And that's how it
Exactly.
started.
When you say,
Exactly.
how did the city, how did you fix it?
This is how it began.
Okay.
Yeah, no, you guys have to come back,
by,
you know.
by dreaming that we could.
Yeah.
You know, Robbie, you always say such powerful words. If not us, then who?
If not now, when? Yeah. And if not us, who? You know, if not now, when? And if not us, who? Okay, because who's going to do it? Okay, and if not now, when? When are you
we
going to
start.
do it? Okay, and you know, it's such a privilege to have Malou coming back at so many different layers. You know, I can't even tell you the inspiration for the youth, but also just have a genius working on the city that deserves it. Why should the city of Joburg deserve not the best in the world to fix it? You know what I mean? Yeah, so it just feels right. You know, it just feels good. It feels
And fun.
And fun.
If we're not having
I
fun,
can see both of your eyes are shining. Thank you, guys. I appreciate
Thank
you
you.
coming in.
Thank you. Hey? Thanks, Megan.